Hey, how's it going, guys? Sean from Team Honey Badger here. Out to bring you guys a deck profile on Sanctuary Guard, post Aichi Legend deck, and G-BT10. Yeah, I should have done the G-BT10 update sooner, but since I received the Aichi Legend deck yesterday, the other day, I wanted to showcase some of the new cards and what I added to this deck. And after a full day of testing yesterday, with proxies and of course the legend deck once it arrived, this is a build that I'm pretty comfortable with Sanctuary Guard. Now I'm still going back and forth between what I want to do with Exceed and Sanctuary Guard together. I know there's a few hybrid builds floating around, but I've tried one of them. I actually kind of like it, but some part of me is like the consistency's kind of hindered. But I do think the access to Awkward Saber and Myriad Saber is huge. Myriad Saber, definitely during my testing yesterday, oh man, this card is insane. All of you guys, if you're playing Pure Blasters, just at least play one of this, because this card definitely, on the first try, is as effective, or if not more powerful than a Regale and Sanctuary Guard, because this card isn't reliant on having grade 1s on the board, except just having a field. But even if you don't have a field, your rear guards will still gain power. But yeah, that's all I got to say about the Blaster deck. You're going to see some tools from the Blaster deck in this deck. Not all of them, but without further ado, let's jump into it. So, standing up our Vanguard, we have Shining Knight Milius. I don't use him. It's literally as simple as that. I am considering throwing in Wingal Brave in this deck, just because I did cut down on the loot number, as you'll see in this deck. So running Wingal Brave is not a bad idea, but Milius is still just here just for the toolboxing of the grade 2, searching out any missing pieces. Next, for the grade 3s, we have, but of course, for Sanctuary Guard Dragon, being able to just ride and get a grade 1 on ride before your opponent could stride really just is what I think makes this deck better than Blasters right now. Until G-BT10 comes out, I still think Sanctuary Guard is the optimal Royal deck, not Blaster deck, because of its early rush and how hard it could push early, with the exception of Myriad Saber, of course, in Blasters. And then from a backup Vanguard, some people switching to Exceed, but I'm sticking with ARG just for that reason, that I'm still playing the Sanctuary Guard centric deck. So yeah, and you could still search out these grade 1s, gain power, draw cards. Next, we play 4 Blaster Blade for the grade 2s, main card of the deck, and not much more to say. I do have this nice SP from the Legend deck. I plan to get 3 more, but for now this is okay. As you guys know, I've always had this promo one, so I just decided to not have like same art, but I just want to keep the promo one for style points. Next, we play 3 Lu. I cut down on Lu because of a single card that I run in the grade 1s, which I'm testing out. And I wanted to make room for 1 Blaster Blade Spirit. Blaster Blade Spirit is a nice ride, while Lu basically says you're playing 3 more copies of every Blaster card, because when you have a card that searches for it, it's kind of like you're playing an extra copy of it, because that card is also technically that other card. So we are playing 7 Blaster Blades and 4 Blaster Blade Spirits, if that makes sense. But nice ride, good defense. Also with this, if you're getting rushed down, when you boost with Lu and Barkle and Flogel and stuff, you could call this out and get a retire. Even though if they attack it, you're just going to die. But if you use this on the Regale turn, but have a back row of just 1s, he becomes 19 by himself, and with a 7k, that's a 26k column. So definitely not a bad card, and not something to just completely look over. 4 Banon, this honestly makes the deck. You could cut it down to 3, it's honestly player preference now. Now that you could mix a Blaster engine in this deck and still have it be very versatile, the Banon is still not bad, but I just want to keep it at 4 just because this is still a Sanctuary Guard focused deck, as I keep going back to. And because it's Sanctuary Guard, 1 Twin Sword, he's still really viable in my opinion, just being able to just attack and get another attacker out. It's really, really good. So next for grade 1s, 4 Stride Enabler, this is Stride focused deck. And we don't have free grade 3 searchers like that Wingal Youth. Card's good, run it. I'll get 4 SPs because that's my favorite card right now. But I'm playing for Perfect Guards. This is something you guys probably weren't expecting to see. I cut down on the Hope Keeper to play 3 Epona. This is honestly a medical choice in my opinion now. Because that Conroe and all of these control decks aren't that prominent right now, I decided to use the unflip ones. I only played the Hope Keepers, honestly, just because Gear Chronicle, Conroe, and all that were running rampant. And now that, and I didn't have unflippers, so now that I do have them, I just thought I'd play them at 3, and the counter charge really helps. Good thing these came in the Legend deck, because I would have missed their value in this deck. But the Hope Keeper's still really nice, and call it off ARG or Sanctuary Guard and go from there. Next we play 4 Miron, same theory that I always have, play the same number of Miron as you do Benon. So yeah, this card's rising. If you had these now, sell them or trade them or something, because this card's now like $5 and Richard's like 10. Next for my grade 1 tech slots, I was playing 2 Blaster Friend Barkle, but as I mentioned, Wingal Youth is probably my favorite card to come out of the Legend deck, so I'm playing one of it, and I really do like the 1 copy, just calling it off of Sanctuary Guard, and if I already have the pieces and the stuff needed, I just call it, fill up the field, and put some pressure on my opponent to have them guard this, which they actually do kind of guard a lot, surprisingly. Not that there's not a lot of blasters in this deck, but still, this card is really good. So for those of you who don't know what it does, when he hits a Vanguard, or when he boosts and hits a Vanguard, you look at the top 7 cards of your deck, search for up to 1 card with Blaster Blade with the name, and put it in your hand and shuffle your deck. If you added a card, it goes to Soul. So it also fills the Soul, which is nice if you don't have enough Soul for some reason. But if you use this early game, you could use it to search out Blaster Blade Spirit or Blaster Blade. And if you're stuck on grade 1, you could discard it. It could also help you get out of grade luck, which is another reason why I might play 2. I honestly just play the Barkle for the name, being able to boost Lou. But if I switch to Wingal Brave as the starter, I'll definitely play a second copy of Blaster Friend Barkle. I also plan to do a whole video discussing the value of Wingal Youth. I have written a Harry Potter novel basically on why I think this card is really good. So if my opinions are enough to value, you'll probably see me talk about them. Next for triggers, pretty standard for me. 8 crit. I really like that these are Flogels, but Burning Main Line is probably my favorite Royal Paladin critical trigger. So I have these 2 foiled dogs in this deck. And of course, Floor Paladin Flogel, restand your Blaster Blade. It kind of makes the deck sometimes. 4 draw, 4 shiny Margle. Gotta play the shinies, otherwise you're not blinging out this deck enough, because every role player should have 4 shiny Margles at this point with how much they reprint him. And of course 4 heals. I'm going to switch to the Fighters Collection one when that comes out. As long as Sanctuary Guard keeps viable, you guys are going to keep seeing deck profiles of it, so might as well get used to it, even if it's just me changing this heals to the new heals from Fighters Collection. So onto the G-Zone. We are playing 3 copies of Regale. Now, usually 1 or 2 finishes them off, which I'm honestly considering taking out one for the GB8, but the GB8's not that good, in my opinion, in this deck, because you keep going, you tend to end the game by the first or second stride. But just keeping the 3 Regale consistency, because there's times when you want to use 3 for when the game could go long, or against control matchups, even though they're not as relevant. The 3rd one definitely comes in handy. But gotta keep consistency for now, and I'll definitely test 1 GB8 in one of the Regale slots. And then next we are playing 2 Fides, honestly the most important card in Royal Paladin at this point. Because Night Rose is popular, this card stops the Night Rose combo. Night Rose GB2 is once per turn, meaning it has to activate the first time that a card is retired. So if you use Fides, the GB3, to retire something and give plus 5k to 2 units, the card that you retire, if it's not like Mick the Ghosty Skeleton Cannoneer, they're forced to use it on that win card, otherwise it won't activate, stopping their whole Negrelade Skeleton Cannoneer plus 10k to Vanguard, retire and draw. So that's why I say Fetus is the most important card in Royal Paladin right now. And now that we have space to play 2 because of a certain choice that I made, I definitely recommend you guys to play 2 as well, because the value of this card is definitely huge in this deck. Next, we are playing 4 copies of Aerial Divine at Altmile. I'm thinking of cutting him down to 2 because I'm not using him as much. But just having 4 is nice. Being able to use it as like a 3rd stride or 2nd stride, flipping another face up, calling a Blaster Blade from my deck, and then having like 2 Flogels on the field. Your opponent's just done if you hit a trigger, honestly. Especially if it's a crit and they're at like 4 damage. So this guy is kind of a more late game push if Regalia probably won't do it. So that's something to keep in mind when using this deck. But for now, we play 4. I want to try Gancelot Saber when it comes out in this deck, even though it's probably going to be completely vanilla. But just for control matchups, if Conroe becomes relevant again with their new support, being able to have the Blast Blade gain resist, and against Gears, being able to have them use their Hetero Hound on like a Flogel rather than the Blast Blade to help us keep an attacker. Good stuff. Another thing that I forgot to mention with Fides is that against Gear Chronicle, you could also retire their Valley Cat, so their Vanguard won't gain +10. And then next, for the new stride that I added to this deck, Luminous Hope, well, it's not right now, Luminous Hope Dragon. So I know he's a Brave-centric stride, but for this deck, I actually really like him. So he has the once per turn ability of choose a face-down card from a Giza and turn it face-up, so you could even turn up Fides if you haven't already, or use Fides to turn up him if he was your first stride. And then for each copy face-up of him in the G-Zone, Luminous Hope gains plus 10,000 for each face-up copy. So if you have this, you have 2 face-up, he'll be 46k by himself. So that's a pretty big number, especially in your control matchups once you see them use a lot of perfect guards because the game's going to go long. And then all of your regards with the Brave ability gain plus 1,000. That doesn't really come into play. I honestly just use him for the power. But he has a nice other secondary effect where it has Brave. When this unit attacks, if you have 2 or more face-up cards with the Brave ability or G-Zone, search your deck for up to 1 grade 2 card, call it to rearguard. It could be any grade 2, it doesn't have to be a Brave grade 2. And then, if you have 3 or more face-up cards with the Brave ability or G-Zone, this unit gains plus 1 critical. So obviously we have Brave strides in this deck to help make this effect go live, but you use him for the power and the control matchups because you're honestly not. As much as I love Saintville and the stuff that he does, you're honestly not going to stride him anymore unless you're in a pinch. But that critical does help, so you kind of have to counteract. Like, do you want the power or do you want the critical? I prefer the power. And then to help us reach the amount of Brave units required to gain the crits or call the grade 2, we use 1 E-Grain. I took this out in Screw Spot because, as you see, my G-Guardians still are 1 Dismal to protect the Blast Blade and 2 Laser Guard just for the easy 20k shield. But let's talk about a Grain. So, E-Grain effect. Brave, GB1 Brave, so you have to have used another thing before her. She gains plus 5,000 shield, and then Soul Blast 1, we have an Altmile Vanguard gains plus 15k shield, or 10,000 shield. So that effect doesn't really matter. But we honestly just play her. If my opponent's just using like a 15k thing, before I played this card, I just went into Screw use that, so I don't have to sacrifice a hand later on. So now I just do that, or if I'm really in Brave, I could use this to be essentially the same thing as Laser Guard. But yeah, it's honestly why I play Green. Good card. Definitely recommend trying one because if you're in a pinch, card could save you. So anyway, guys, that's it for my Sanctuary Guard updated deck profile. I'll be doing Gear Chronicles soon. So anyway, guys, have a great day. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.